Hello again, and thank you for tuning in again to my channel. This is Guest75, and today I would like to start talking about a new series that I'm going to be doing on this channel. That's actually comparing all the major OSs with each other. So it's kind of called OS Wars, and in this series I'm going to really take a look at what all operating systems are offering up until now, what are alternatives, and which operating systems might be a good choice for you. So stay tuned.
Like this, hold up. Can you feel me, God? Can you feel me, star? Can you feel me?
Alright, so I have all the operating systems lined up over here. Let's actually just talk about what I have lying over here. So here we have the iPhone with iOS. We've got the BlackBerry 10 OS. We've got the Android phone. And all the way on the right, we've got the Windows phone. So let's start with the Android device. Well, what can I say about it? Most people know it, of course. It's one of the standard operating systems that we have these days. In fact, counter to what a lot of people think, Android is the most adopted operating system. So I think about 70% of all sold phones in the last 2 or 3 years are based on Android. What the state now is that they're coming into some more of them regulations of Google. So one of the nice things about Android is that it's really customizable. So different brands have different ideas about what they want to do with Android. So the basics are, you've got your home screen right here. It's kind of a desktop, just like on your PC. And you can just swipe and have different home screens. Oops. Yeah, so you can see you have your different home screens here. And you see already from what I was doing with interactions, it can be very overwhelming, very complicated, a lot of buttons. See the top here, I've got a lot of notifications. So it has all of the capabilities that you would expect of a modern smartphone, but it can be a little bit overwhelming. The device that I have here in particular is a Motorola Moto X from 2014. I'm not really gonna discuss about the hardware about the devices, but I really want to focus more on the software. Unless, let me know in the comments if you really wanna have some hardware comparisons between these phones. Our bottom line is you got your apps over here. The bottom line is with this phone, this is a clean version of Android. So this is running Android 5.1.1 Lollipop. That is one of the most latest iterations. You also have 6.0 that just came out a few months ago with new models. But everything is designed to look flat and very recognizable. And these are some extra features that you have. So you have your widgets on your home screen. This is like a Facebook plugin for your chats. And up here you have your notification center. The next device, the operating system that I would like to talk about is iOS on the iPhone. I also want to give you a little bit context with this device, because I have been a Windows Phone user for a long period, also a long-term Android user. But last year was actually the first time that I really thought, you know what, I want to see what every operating system is capable of. So I'm gonna try out the iPhone. Well, what's the state of iOS? Well, they're doing very well. The thing is that they've always been known to run faultless, so no glitches and anything like that. And what I've noticed is that in the latest iterations, I think starting from iOS 8 with the big design changes in 7, the performance and reliability, I think, has gone down a bit, but still, especially if you compare it to Android, I mean, this is falls in the term real simple. So you just have your home screen, a grid of icons, and that's it actually. Where things get a little more complicated, actually a little bit more similar to Android these days is with the notification drawer. So you have a lot of notifications and tabs and everything you can take care of. You even have some widgets that you can now have in your tab. So for instance, here I have a football widget. You can even scroll, go into the app. So as I was telling, a lot of people still say that there's a lot of difference between Android and iOS. And I've been using all of these operating systems that I have lying before me here for about a year. The iOS and the Android for a year, and the other ones even longer. So what I have really noticed is that in all those years, I think they have grown very similar to each other. And that is also one of the things I want to discuss in these OS wars, because not only am I gonna do separate videos of all the operating systems and what it can do, but I'm also gonna do them vice versa. So I'm gonna face them up to each other in all the combinations that I have right here. So iOS, in a nutshell, it's it's very simple, but it has gotten more complicated, and with those complications, it has gotten some more glitches. Well, my outtake on it is, as a former Android and primarily Windows Phone user, still, it looks good. It works well, and it has something that's something that I'm missing in Android, and that's consistency. So across the board, you always get some nice performance. This is an iPhone 6, by the way, so it is a little bit more limited, I think, in multitasking, that it shuts down apps. But that's something you'll see that other operating systems have as well. But in a nutshell, it's looking pretty good. So the third operating system that enters these wars is the BlackBerry 10 operating system. And I have to say beforehand that this is the operating system that I'm currently using as my main driver. It is my preferred operating system at the moment. What can I tell you about it? Well, the state is that BlackBerry is making this leap towards Android also. So the community is a bit concerned, of course, by that. But since this is a very important operating system for BlackBerry clients, so I think the German government is all BlackBerry now, and of course the defense department in the US all have BlackBerries, and they've already announced actually and reiterated that their intent is to keep supporting BlackBerry 10, and that is of course hopefully what we will be getting. And I think there's already updates coming up for before the end of this year, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. But the state is that this is one of the most how you call it, unknown operating systems, so nobody really knows that this exists. They still think BlackBerry is the same old. Now, I don't want to tread into technical details here, but to say this operating system is built from the ground up into something completely new would be an understatement. So what I notice OS for, what it does really well is being very social. So you have everything in your hub, and the primary thing is, I mean, if you look all of these other phones, they have home buttons, navigation buttons, and this one doesn't have any buttons, and that is because everything works with gestures and swipes. So that is a very unique way of navigating, very intuitive also, although it does require a learning curve, but once you settle into it, it's very hard to let go of it. So what's new in the operating system? The thing that it does really nicely is it doesn't have that many apps of its own that are primarily for BlackBerry, but it does have the support of Android apps now. So most of the Android apps, I would say 80 to 90% of what you can download on your Android phone, you can download on here, and it'll work. So of course, what BlackBerry is known for is security. Now, I don't really bother about it that much, but what I really find nice about this operating system is its flexibility and actually it's powered to multitask. So I have my messages over here. I can see all my notifications coming in with one swipe. Swipe it up and I have my multitasking screen. So it works really intuitive in that way. So BlackBerry is something I've been wanting to cover for quite a while, because also what's changed is that the community behind it has become very, especially on YouTube, very prominent. So there's a lot of guys, It's Me JC, for example, is a very nice channel, and Jay Williams. They really got this movement going on the internet. So that's something really nice if you have a BlackBerry phone, that you actually have other people where you can count on, or check if you need any tips. So that's really what's changed on the BlackBerry front, and it's really interesting to see how it compares, especially because it does have both very unique standout features and a lot of similarities with some of the other operating systems. So it also has a drop-down menu, but that's for toggles only. And you have a very different philosophy when it comes to notifications, as I will also highlight in the upcoming videos. And the last one of the bunch, you know my channel well for this actually, Windows Phone coverage. For this comparison, I'm gonna need you guys' opinion actually, because I am planning to do this with Windows Phone 8.1, because I think that is still the most stable and the most representative of what Windows Phone is known for. Well, what is it known for actually? The state of Windows Phone is now that they have this new operating system together with from Microsoft, Windows 10. And that means that they're going to unify the operating systems on the PC, the tablet, and the phone even more. Create a unified ecosystem, so you have all your apps across the board, which I must say in Windows Phone 8.1 and Windows 8 was already very prominent, and was actually working for them already. I already have some apps and some games that I've purchased here that I can just freely play on my tablet and on my computer. So that is a big advantage that it has over all the other operating systems, which are really segmented into their own. So they don't have any desktop counterparts or anything like that. Maybe Apple might do something like that in the future, but and Android maybe with Chrome OS. But as it stands, Microsoft is the only one that has something like this. Well, if I can describe the operating system, it's very basic actually. This is something it really has in common with iOS. It's very simple. You just have your tiles over here, which are basically app shortcuts, but they display information. It's very unique, very cool style also. I also think from a design standpoint, this is still the prettiest and most attractive OS I have seen thus far. Just in the way that it is designed, also with the flat design, which all the other manufacturers have now also adopted. So what is it known for? Unfortunately, it's known for its lack of apps. It's not as big as a problem as it used to be. And also what I'm going to show you in the upcoming videos is that they actually, for some apps, let me just bring it for right here, is MyTube, for example. That's a YouTube app. But this YouTube app is like the king of YouTube apps. It's insane. It does everything your regular YouTube app does, but a lot, and I'll tell you a lot more. I'm actually, if you guys want to know, just let me know in the comments. I could do a separate app review for this app, because this is just something that I can say if I'm switching platforms, so I'm trying out the new iOS update or a new BlackBerry update or Android, vice versa. I miss having that YouTube app with me when I want to watch something. So just that alone is very, very significant. And you have a couple of other apps that are also just way better than their Android or iOS or BlackBerry counterparts. So that's what's new with Windows, and they're trying actually with Windows 10 to get more apps to the platform and easier. And of course, the future time will tell if that really comes to fruition. Now, concluding, what do I want to say about all of these OSs? what I want to try and do in this series is not only do like a feature comparison or specs comparison of what the phones can do, but more importantly, how are they to live with? You know, I mean, let's just take the two most prominent ones right here. So we've got the Android phone and the iPhone. These are basically the two which have one big advantage, and that is that they both have the biggest app stores. So that is something that they have in common. That is probably the main reason why they remain number one and number two. So that is something that they have that the other two operating systems kind of lack. But what I really want to zoom into is what we do with our phones. Usually, I think there's been some research on that, is there's 5 to 8 apps that we really use to get our things done, to get us going, so we can live our lives. Like we have emails, things like WhatsApp, Facebook has to be present, maybe LinkedIn. And I actually want to zoom in and on the lesser known operating systems and see like if you choose a BlackBerry, if you choose a Windows Phone, how is it to live with? I mean, can you get from A to B with navigation on the Lumia? Can you do some Google services on the BlackBerry? What are the practical differences that you're going to notice? So that is something that I aim to show in all of these videos, that they're what it's like to live with. So what is their practical use? And of course, what's really nice for you guys to see is what makes them different from each other, what's similar, how do they handle different things. For instance, I've had a few instances with the Windows Phone or the BlackBerry that it has features that I'm thinking, why didn't anybody else think of that? And you really, with a lot of these operating systems, they usually got a global review. They focus more on the device and the specs, and then you don't really get a follow-up or anything about them. So right now in 2015 and 2016, especially starting 2016, I just want to highlight all these OSs and compare them to each other and see how you can use them. Are they practical? Do things really work as easy in the videos? Maybe some reviews are wrong about things you can and cannot do on these devices. I have had some experience with these devices now for over a year with all of them, and I found that plenty of things that regular reviewers don't get the time to check out, usually they appear if you actually start to use the device maybe for half a year. So that's really interesting. Now what I want to ask of my viewers is, I have these operating systems here. I'm gonna do comparison videos. Just let me know in the comments what you guys want to know about all of these devices. Of course, I'm gonna compare all of them side by side, so it's gonna be a sort of a competition. Every OS gets to be compared with every OS. I'm not gonna say which one is better, which one wins, but just how do they compare, what can you use them for, what makes them unique. And finally, in the final video, I'm gonna also say what's my main driver and why. Because most of you know that I've been a Windows Phone user. Actually, before that, I was pro Android, specifically Sony Xperias. I was crazy about those phones, and then all of a sudden, I just took a leap and tried something else. I can also tell you from personal experience, from doing that, trying something else, also made me get an iPhone, because I really, if you have 3 of the OSs that you've tried, why not try the 4th one and see what it's all about? Especially because Apple is really something I've come to see in the communities. You either love it, you either hate it. I mean, there's a lot of people that love it, but the guys that do hate it really, they won't even give it a chance, and I think that's a bit unfair. You should at least compare them, at least try them, Same with Windows Phone. I mean, of course it lacks apps, but that doesn't mean that you don't need to try it. I mean, obviously, you know, the Nokia phones and the Microsoft Lumias have some hardware advantages where you could buy them, mainly the camera. But just look at the operating system itself. What can it do for you? Maybe it's more convenient without you even knowing. I mean, you're never gonna know if you don't try it once. So again, I want to urge you guys to ask questions in the comments. I will try to answer them as soon as I can. And also, of course, stay tuned for more videos on all of these platforms. And again, if you really want to know about the devices, I usually don't really care about the devices, because also one thing that I see a lot now is Android is the most known platform. So everybody thinks that specifications, for instance, have to be up to date, really high, really fast clock speeds. That is something I can tell you right now before I start the series, that is actually only really something that counts for Android phones. I mean, the iPhone is a good example. It has only 2 cores to do to do computing, to drive the device, and it works fine even after all these years. BlackBerry is the same actually. This specifically is the C30. It has really old hardware in terms of Android, but for BlackBerry it runs really smooth, it runs fast. And Windows phones, of course, even in my last video with the cheap Lumias, it needs very little to run very fast. They just have different rules for the way they operate, so that's something that you need to keep in mind. Again, guys, thanks for watching, and yeah, just like I said, if you like this video, rate, comment, and subscribe. Please, if you have questions, if you really want to have a say in what I'm going to be testing on these phones, just write them down in the comments. I think your feedback can only help improve these upcoming videos. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.